Guidance, I got plenty, bro. Passion, I got plenty more. Mind like an exec, my nigga, and I'm only 24. Used to go to Harlem just to get my hair cut by Mr. Denny Mo, but I'm not up in Harlem that much anymore. I'm down in Queens with nigga Monty G and Devin B.
Hey, David.
What's up, Zon? How we doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Life is good. No complaints. It's good to see you.
You took it. I want to tell a funny story real quick. Okay. So we used to work together. Our former coworker, one day, she sent me a text. She was like, "You know David raps." I was like, "Our little brother that be following us at Starbucks? Like, he's a rapper?" And so she sent me a link to the moon.
Yeah.
Let's take a trip to the moon, baby. Mama callin', told her I'll be on soon, baby. I used to do this in my room, baby. Now sweeping dishes, no room, baby.
David is a little annoying, but DG is fine. I'm like, is he legal? I was like, he's over 21, right? I was like,
Oh my god.
where did this swag come from? Like, this is a whole, like, DG
Yeah,
was a whole new person.
Yeah.
So, tell me, like, you know, when did you, like, first start, you know, rapping?
So I think I first started rapping probably I was like 15 years old.
Okay.
But I've been a musician since about 4. My great uncle is actually Thelonious Monk, one of the most famous jazz pianists in the game. He actually passed before I was born, but his son was a famous jazz percussionist. When I was like 4, on my birthday, he gave me and my family like front row seats to like his concert. Watched him, you know, play the drums, and that was it for me. I mean, I fell in love to the point where, you know, that next month, parents bought me a drum set. Month after that, had drum lessons, and by the time I graduated high school, I was in rock bands with like a bunch of white boys, jazz bands, you know, with a bunch of old guys, you know, and that transitioned to me being in musicals and me actually diving into like electronic production, you know, around I was a freshman in high school in like 2010. So 2011, Chief Keef came out, right, with you know, Love Sosa and like the whole Chicago drill scene, and personally, you know, the production on all that stuff blew my mind. It wasn't as much, you know, the content that was crazy, but you know, it was more so that the production actually got me into saying, okay, I need to be a producer. I need to, like, you know, run this. Obviously, if most musicians know, once you become the producer, then all of a sudden, you know, you want to, like, rap on all the stuff you do. So that's kind of the way it translated. Did that through high school and then college. I decided to, like, take it a little bit more seriously. You know, when you have to decide what you want to do for a living, you know, in school, you're, you know, got majors and stuff like that. I was a history major, but like wanted to be a rapper. You know what I mean? It was tough.
It's kind of Hamilton-ish.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. So I decided, you know, instead of doing what I think a lot of my contemporaries were doing, which was step into the finance space and like try and, you know, make the big bucks on Wall Street and that type of stuff. You know, I decided that, you know, I didn't think that was going to be, you know, the initial route for me at least, and you know, I really want to chase what my passion, which really was, you know, being a musician, and I did that so well, I guess, at that time that got an opportunity to, you know, meet with major individuals and you know, a record label, right? And that got me from being just a pipe dream artist to, you know, okay, now you actually have not just an ability to be an artist, but you also have the ability to step into the business side of things, which is extremely important to me, and also, you know, just all my you know, family members as well. As look, you need multiple verticals to be successful, and if finances aren't in that sort of thought process, then it may be a lot tougher. So yeah.
Shawty out here choosing, so the link, I had to sit it up. Pull up from the tray, you let me spray and I'ma wet it up. Florida nigga, they seen I was wild, so why you getting tough? When I'm back in town, I'll shut it down and we gon' get in touch. Look.
We used to talk about, when we worked together, was that, you know, you have a special background. You know, you have a somewhat of a privileged background. So what are you talking about in your music? Can you talk a little bit more just about, like, you know, who relates to, you know, SRQ Dave, David Gray, and DG music?
I have to, you know, speak about my real circumstances. I'm a child of privilege. I grew up in, you know, the South as the token black kid, right? So the things that I express are the experience that I grew up, or the experiences that I had in those circumstances, right? Whether that was first time I got called, the N-word, I won't say it for, the interview, but it was like third grade on the bus, right? And I wasn't coached on how to like go through that, right? So, dealing with those sorts of, life experiences that may have been a little bit different than, other rap contemporaries where, you're the token. You're either not, black enough for the, sort of African American side of yourself, but then you're not, white enough for the, white boys, right? I wanted to be one of the bros, right? But unfortunately, I'm still at the end of the day a nigga, and like my skin doesn't look like theirs. So those are the types of things I talk about. I also talk about the fact that, when the hip hop and that sort of black culture became really exciting for white people, I became the guy that but you're not really like black. I was like that. You're not actually black guy, right? And I think there's a major demographic of millennials, but also prior to that, of kids that didn't have anyone that looked like them that was saying that type of stuff. I mean, most kids that I grew up with of color, who are of privilege as well, growing up in the suburbs of New Jersey or the suburbs of Philadelphia or what have you, right? They're listening to the Chief Keefs and the the good stuff, right? But at the same time, there's no good stuff for them that actually comes from a place that they can actually recognize, right? And I think the mythical ghetto in general is something that white people sort of embrace and enjoy. And I couldn't be the artist that I wanted to be if that was something that I tapped into, right? That's just not me. And I think it would be a disservice to not just if I have kids, which I assume I will one day, right, then going back, my parents, their parents, and how we all got here, right? If you weren't like an immigrant recently, right? I mean, it was the Middle Passage, so I couldn't do those people a disservice by being someone I'm not and not telling my own truth. And luckily, I think it's working out and people are actually tapping in, which is a good thing, because you got to show people that you don't have to fake it to make it. At the end of the day, you can just be you. I mean, I'm a goofball. You know me. I can be the funny guy. I can be the ladies' man. I can be the rapper. I can be the singer, right? And I think a lot of people try and hide some of those aspects from people, and I think it does them a disservice. I got friends that are in the industry that are way, more like that have way deeper characteristics than they show. And I think it's not fair to them because then people don't actually know them when they think they do, but then it's also not fair to the consumers and fans who think they know them when in reality you just have no idea. And I think that's one of the things that I've tried to do. Transparency has been key for me.
I hear a lot of versatility in your music, so going from 2+2 to the moon to which one did you premiere on World Star?
Yeah, that was 2+2.
Okay, and then you have Morning Dave. I've done my research. I feel like, and it's all different pockets. Like in the comments, people be like, it sounds like Drake, or it sounds like Blueface, or it sounds like 21 Savage, and it's very versatile. But I feel like that can be a blessing and a curse for some artists when they can hear you and say you sound like somebody else. They feel like they can sometimes feel like you're trying to emulate that person as opposed to like, hey, this is just my natural voice,
question.
So how do you feel like you're still finding yourself, number one, but kind of number two, even though I feel like you definitely did explain your versatility, but how would you tell somebody like, hey, like I'm not just trying to be Drake, I'm not just trying to chase, somebody.
One thing everyone in this music space has to recognize is everybody has influences, right? There is no artist, whether it was Beethoven, whether it was Bach, whether it was fast forward to my great uncle Thelonious Monk or Miles Davis or, speed up Lauryn Hill, right? Then we can go through, the young guys, right? I mean, there's no one that is quote unquote fully original, right? Music is sound, right? All sound is created, right? And there's no sound creation that wasn't made, at least in the last, 100, 200 years, that you haven't heard in this modern music. So personally, when I get asked that question, I appreciate it because it really, I mean, people have to recognize, right, that, you know, if you think, for example, you know, Mary, my head of operations, brought this up, who's behind the camera, shout out her. She, you know, said to me, look, when I first heard Drake, I immediately thought he sounded like Lil Wayne, right? Which is true. Mm-hmm. But fast forward 7-8 years, would you ever compare Drake to Lil Wayne right now in regard to like the way that they sound? I mean, sonically, not really. And I think a lot of the time, you know, your influences do, you know, protrude through your own music. But at the same time, you know, my influences are so broad and vast that, I mean, there's a piece of everybody in me, I think. Like, whether that's Lauryn Hill, whether that's, you know, you could even drop Jimi Hendrix, Bob Marley in there, right? Then you could fast forward to A Tribe Called Quest, the Big L, Drake, J. Cole, Jay-Z, Biggie, Tupac. I mean, like, those are cats. Even I'll put Diddy in there, right? Because that's someone that you have to think about if you're trying to hit this, you know, music game from the artist and A&R perspective. I mean, all these guys, one, have had influences before them, and two, I feel like a little piece of them is sort of in my craft.
I can hear, you know, 5 of your tracks and none of them sound the same.
Yeah.
So how are you, you know, decide? You just decide based on the beat, you know, or what you know, maybe are feeling.
Yeah.
What Dave is going to come out on the track.
Yeah, my influences have been so broad and vast that as a musician who's not just jazz concentrated, but even rock concentrated, and then also, you know, R&B hip hop concentrated, it allows you to sort of realize, like, I can do like a lot. And I think it's important to not be boxed in, you know, and that's probably one of my biggest fears if I think about, you know, my artistry. I would hate to be I won't name these artists, but the guy who has, you know, like the big hit right now, one of the biggest artists in the game. Everyone looks at this guy and they're saying, well, you know, he doesn't necessarily, you know, make anything different anymore. His bars sound the same, the hooks sound the same, right? You know, and those are a variety of different artists, right, you could say. I would hate to be that guy, because then when it's time to step out of that box and make something new, like the sing-songy ballad or what have you, as you described, people are going to look at you crazy. And they're going to be like, no, you do this, you stay there, right? And for me, I've never been that guy. I mean, I'm trying to chase being an A&R and an artist. That is the definition of
next question.
versatility.
We're getting there.
Right? Exactly. So for me, it's like, in my music, I love so much in so many different genres, and I think that I have the ability and the at least musical dial to be able to decide what I can make and know that to a degree most of it isn't going to, you know, be bad. It's probably going to be, you know, pretty good. You know, so why would I not, right? And so for me personally, it's kind of difficult, I will say, because sometimes you're trying to put together a cohesive project. It's like, all right, well, do we put the EDM track here? And we're like, all right, well, hold on. Whoa. This is an R&B project. Yeah. What are you doing with an EDM track? Or what are you doing with, you know, this, you know, slow ballad on this, like, major hip-hop tape, right? And this, like, more sort of hardcore, trap-esque, you know, music. I mean, it's tough. But that said, at least I know this, right? It allows me to have other avenues that I can open into, right?
Shawty on Cocoa Puffs, 50 shades gray. She likes it rough. Niggas don't play 'cause they know I call bluffs. Never got bail, never wore cuffs.